Hey, my beautiful gems. Today we are talking about the huge shifts in the jewelry industry. We're going to be covering what's hot, what's not, the move towards more minimalistic designs. We're also going to be covering how lab diamonds may be on their way out. But let's just jump into it. So, have you noticed shift in jewelry trends recently? And this isn't even just in jewelry. I think fashion as a whole, I think over the last year or so, we've seen a very big move towards more conservative trends. So this seems a little bit grandiose, but I think we actually need to zoom out a little bit and take a look at society as a whole, because there's been very strong indications of this shift. You know, we had the Trump coming into elections, winning the elections as obviously a swing to more conservative values. You know, if we're looking at social media as a whole, we can clearly see that, you know, the influencers who are dominating social media at the moment are very conservative, very traditional influencers like Nara Smith. We have Hannah Nealman from Ballerina Farm. And these personalities are what's getting the most views at the moment, whether it's rage bait or not. Like, that's like really a whole topic on itself, but it just shows that this is what people are looking at, and what you're seeing in your day to day is obviously going to reflect what you're wearing, your values, what your opinions are. And to prove my point, all you need to look at is the aesthetics that we're seeing in fashion. It's the clean girl aesthetic, old money and sophistication, the whole Americana vibe. That's what's trending. That's what's influencing the jewelry industry. So let's just jump into the top 5 things I'm seeing. Number 1, we have diamond solitaires. So diamond solitaires engagement rings have always been around. They will always be around. But I see that we are taking a very modest swing to the style that we've been seeing over the last decade, right? So previously we were seeing very high set, very large carat weights, especially with the wave of, you know, lab diamonds coming in, making more accessible, very more like glamorous versions of the diamond solitaire. The whole MO was buying an engagement ring that had like the maximum amount of sparkle. So we were literally putting diamonds everywhere. You had the center stone, you had diamonds on the prongs, you had diamonds along the shank. Nobody wanted to see any metal. It had to be maximum sparkle all the time. Now we've completely skipped that. We don't want any diamonds on the shank. It's just bare metal. The shanks are even getting a little bit wider. What we're actually seeing is lower set diamonds, even set as low as the finger. We're seeing, instead of prongs, we're seeing a lot more bezels, semi-bezels. And so give a lot more of like a very clean, modest aesthetic. And I'm no longer receiving requests for solitaires for gemstones either. So the reason why I said diamond solitaire engagement rings is because people are really requesting diamonds for this style. I think it's really going towards like a traditional, very classic look, because we're looking at styles like old money aesthetics, the clean girl aesthetics. These aesthetics are generally not cohesive with colored gemstones. You know, we're not going to be seeing an emerald set for these rings. We're not going to be seeing, you know, rubies or anything like that. It doesn't match that vibe. It's really specific to diamonds. Number 2, we have custom engagement rings and unique engagement rings. Even with custom designs, in previous years, we had a lot more requests for very ornate, very extravagant pieces. Now what I'm seeing is really movement within the band, like twisting, folding, but in and of itself, they're pretty tame. They're not ornate in any way. There's no diamonds along the shank. We're not seeing a lot of mixed colored gemstones like we previously were. They are a little bit of wider metal, set very low, set with bezels. So as minimal and as sleek as you can, that's become like the new cool girl chic. And within the custom space, that's usually where we're going to see the more colored gemstones. So usually the more traditional styles of rings, we don't really get anything other than diamonds. But for custom inquiries, we are seeing a lot of emeralds. We are seeing a lot of sapphires. I think the shift is that we are no longer seeing, you know, the classic royal blue sapphire that Princess Diana wore. We are seeing requests for more and more lighter colors of blue for the sapphires, which in my opinion definitely makes sense, just in the context that the brighter the stone is, the paler the stone is, the more light passes, and the more light passes, the more vibrant it is. So I think more and more people are wanting something a little bit more sparkly. And of course, you know, having a very dark stone is a little bit harder to wear than a paler stone on like the day to day. So let me know if you do like the royal blue or the light blue. I'd be very curious. Number 3, we have vintage and not whimsical. So I would say the 3 to 5 year mark prior was very whimsical. So what I'm talking about whimsical was it had an undertone, like a little bit of a flair towards vintage, but it wasn't so vintage. It was kind of like fairy tale. You know, you had a lot of rose gold rings. You had a lot of like swirls and detailing in cluster rings with little diamonds set like stars all over the shanks. Those were what I would consider whimsical. There were also engagement rings that were set with very unique cuts, kite cuts. We were seeing, you know, half moons, all those kinds of things. We're not really getting those requests at all. We've moved away from whimsical and really have buckled down in the vintage aesthetic, specifically for Art Deco. The difference between Art Deco today and like 3 years ago is that we're not seeing, you know, filigrane. We're not seeing like milligrane and a lot of detailing. We are seeing very geometric, very clean lines, a very, you know, modern interpretation of the Art Deco style that was previously seen. This started coming in last year. Like if you watch my other YouTube video, you're going to see it starts coming in. And this year again, it's going to be going strong because it looks great. In the vintage space, there's also a growing demand for antique diamonds and Victorian cut diamonds. Why? So if you're not familiar with them, we have a whole YouTube video that you can go check out. I'll link it down below. But these are diamonds that were basically the last diamonds to be cut by hand. And so there's a lot of romanticism behind them. They also tend to be a little bit more yellow, so they have kind of like a warm glow to them. And I think more and more people are asking for these diamonds because they feel a little bit more unique than sterile, brilliant cut diamond, like machine cut. And also, I think people like the fact that these are diamonds that are repurposed. So from, you know, an environmental standpoint, using something that's already out there on the market can be a little bit better. And it also gives clients a way to honor their heritage, right? If they're using pieces from their grandmother, for example, using her stone, you know, and honoring her memory in that way, I think it's a really beautiful momentum to use. So that is why we're seeing a very strong shift towards heirloom diamonds in the jewelry space. Number 4, we have stone cuts. And let me tell you, elongated shapes are leading the way. Anything elongated, people are really loving, whether it's ovals, whether it's pairs, elongated radiance, emerald cuts. Those are really dominating the engagement ring space. I think a lot of the reasons why is having an elongated shape really gives a very feminine look on your hand. And I think more and more people are catching on to that. And there's also little things like, you know, the number 1 stone that's being ordered is an oval. And if you actually look at an oval for the same carat weight as, let's say, a round stone, they're actually bigger in proportions because of the way that it's cut. So you will always have a stone that actually looks bigger for the same weight. So those are little tricks that, again, I think people are catching on to, buying more and more because of that. The second thing that I do want to say is that a lot of people have been buying lab diamonds, which means that they've been going higher carat weights than they normally would have. Like a lot of people are not buying under, let's say, 1.52 carats. And I think that's another reason why people are buying more like rectangular shapes, ovals, pairs. Because the funny thing I find about round is that when you go over 2 carats, a round stone becomes really kitsch. I don't know what it is, but if you have a 3 carat round diamond, it literally looks like a candy. Like it just doesn't look aesthetic in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to add a picture up here. There's just something weird about it. I don't know why. Even for like sapphire jewelry, you know, we never make anything under 2 carat. And we have never been asked for a round stone because they just don't look aesthetic at this size. It's the weirdest thing. Number 5, I have saved the best for last, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I do believe that lab diamonds are on their way out. If you look at a lot of magazines, fashion magazines, or bridal magazines, a lot of them are still talking about lab in a positive way. Like, oh, 2025, lab diamonds are going to be huge. But I actually don't think that. And the reason why is I've been in the industry. I've been making, you know, custom design for the last 11 years. So I have really seen when they first entered the market until now, because, you know, they've been around since the 1980s, but they really only hit common market for the last 10 years. Okay. When they first came out, they were kind of like a new product, so I don't think anybody really knew so much about like what they were about. But for the longest time, nobody could say anything negative about them at all. If you said something negative about a lab diamond, you would literally get like burned at the cross. You'd get people that come for you. Lab diamonds, for some reason, it is a cult following, okay? And I don't care if you're pro or you're against, it doesn't matter to me. I'm stating like what I see. And for the longest time, you couldn't say anything negative about it until now. Okay, I have started to see a very strong shift from everything positive to now we are starting to see articles coming out more and more frequently about like the questioning of lab diamond. You know, is it ethical? Is it actually good, you know, investment? Is it, you know, is it exactly what people are saying it is? And so I think that is now we're starting to see a shift of, you know, a more questioning consumer, because at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter what it is that you buy, whether you're buying natural diamond, synthetic diamond, or natural gemstone, imitation gemstone, synthetics. There's going to be a list of positives and there's going to be a list of negatives for anything. And up till now, we have only been seeing the positives. And so I think that more and more consumers are going to start to be aware of, you know, both sides of the coin. And people are not going to just be parading and, you know, marketing it like it's like this amazing thing when there are actually downfalls. Another thing we have to talk about is, you know, the price depreciation, right? So even just like 7-8 years ago, the cost of producing a lab diamond, the cost, not like the what they're selling, but just the cost of producing was anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 per carat, right? So it was still relatively expensive, but today you're looking at, you know, $150, $250 a stone, 1 carat stone. It has crashed so incredibly rapidly, the price of production and like the, you know, the wholesale prices, that by next year, they're probably going to be $100 stones. And so in the engagement ring space, I don't think that it's going to be, you know, something that's as desired. I can speak for my clients. I've never had a client who wants $100 center stone on their engagement ring. That's just the reality. It's no longer a thing of luxury. The prices have dropped too significantly. And that's why I do think that they are going to be moving more into fashion jewelry. I think there's always going to be a space for lab diamonds. It's never going to go away, but I think that it's going to be, you know, in fashion jewelry, we're already seeing brands like, I think, Pandora, who's already starting to use lab diamonds. And I think that was an excellent move on their part. You know, their pieces are probably in the, I'm assuming, the $400 to $600 range. You know, that's great for, you know, young women who want to buy a diamond at like a more accessible price. It makes them feel a little fancy. Like, that's a great move. But for the engagement ring space, I don't think so. And unfortunately, being in the space for as long as I have been, as jewelers, we know all of the pros and the negatives. And I think that what's going to end up happening is that people are going to start coming back to the jewelers who sold them these not having told them, you know, the downfalls of, you know, these are things that are realistically happening. For example, the price drop. I think those jewelers are potentially going to go out of business because they're going to have ruined their reputation. There's a very big difference between selling something and explaining and advising your clients to the pros and cons, and then selling them something just because they're making money off of it. And that's what's been happening, right? I make so much more money selling lab diamond than I do selling natural diamond. And that's just what people don't want to get behind. If I sell a $4,000 lab diamond, I'm easily making $2,800 to $3,000 of profit, okay, for a 1 carat stone. Those are the averages that people are selling 1 carat lab diamonds, is anywhere between, let's say, $3,500 to, let's say, $6,000. Those margins are insane. If I sell a natural diamond, 1 carat, on average, it obviously depends on the quality, but let's say SI1, I'm probably selling it for around $9,500, which means that I'm making maybe $1,500 of profit, $2,000 of profit. It's nothing. And that is why these jewelers are selling it. So it's just, people are going to start becoming more and more aware, and these guys are going to ruin their reputation, because we know. All right, I'd love to know what you guys think. Have you guys noticed these trends as well? Are you a little bit disappointed like I am, because I am a true maximalist at heart? But as always, engagement ring trends are trends, and you do need to buy something that you absolutely love, because trends are in and out every 5 to 7 years. And so I always recommend, taking the time and not getting influenced by social media and just really finding something that you love. So again, let me know what you think. And my name is Dominic Flux. I'm a custom jewelry designer. If you do want to work with me, you can always send me an email. My links are down below. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.